Here's what's coming up on Network Africa. Defense Minister of self-declared Somaliland resigns, protesting deal granting Ethiopia access to a seaport in Somalia. 25 experts in Libya unanimous in assessment saying negligence led to the Derna flooding disaster in September. Plus, South African presidency dismissed reports claiming President Cyril Ramaphosa is ill. Hello and welcome to the program this week. I'm Layo Olarinde. The Defense Minister of the self-declared Republic of Somaliland has resigned, and that is in protest against the deal granting Ethiopia access to a seaport in the breakaway region of Somalia. Abdikani Ateye is also criticizing Somaliland's President Muse Bihi Abdi for not consulting the Council of Ministers on the deal, saying they heard about it from the media. Mr. Ateye hails from Somaliland's Awald region, where Ethiopia reportedly wants to set up its military base in the coastal town of Lugaya. The Memorandum of Understanding reportedly gives landlocked Ethiopia access to the Red Sea in exchange for it recognizing Somaliland as an independent state. Somalia has termed the deal an act of aggression and recalled its ambassador to Addis Ababa. And also now there are reports that Ethiopia's ambassador to Somalia has also returned to Addis Ababa amid a diplomatic row between the two countries. In the meantime, President Said Abdullahi Deni has been re-elected as the leader of Somalia's semi-autonomous region of Puntland after months of electoral disputes. He's been voted back with 45 votes by members of Puntland's parliament and immediately sworn in for his second term. His closest challenger, Guled Salah, received 21 votes, while Abshir Omar Jama, a former Somali foreign affairs minister, finished third. Well, like the rest of Somalia, Puntland holds indirect elections where clan elders pick members of parliament, who in turn elects the president. The votes followed campaigns marred by disputes and deadly violence. Well, last year, at least 26 people were killed in Garowe in clashes between forces loyal to Mr. Deni and the opposition over a proposal to hold a direct election, which has since been shelved. We're now in Libya, where the results of the judicial inquiry into last year's Derna disaster show that the dams that gave way in September were fragile. This is according to 25 experts who Libya's Attorney General say were unanimous in their assessment that negligence led to the disaster. The results published last week said that the disaster could have been avoided if the recommendations made since the year 2003 to maintain these dams and also to build a third one had been applied. Massive flooding devastated much of the northeastern Libyan city on September 10 and 11, leaving 4,540 people dead. The torrent of water washed away neighborhoods and damaged critical sewage and water infrastructure that has yet to be repaired. The UN said at the time most of those deaths could have been avoided. According to the International Organization for Migration, more than 30,000 people were displaced in Derna and nearly 1 million people were affected by the flooding. In the meantime, the United Nations believes the humanitarian crisis in Nigeria has significantly reduced, such that funding for its missions, especially in the northeast, is no longer a top priority. In an interview with Channels Television in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, the outgoing UN resident and humanitarian coordinator for Nigeria, Mr. Matthias Schmale, says world bodies is cutting its funding for Nigeria's humanitarian support for 2024, even as attention has shifted to the war in Ukraine and Gaza.
I would like to say that the funding environment is becoming increasingly challenging globally. Humanitarian needs are rising. The latest crisis in Gaza, but Sudan, Ukraine, of course. So the needs at global level are rising around the world, and resources are not rising at the same pace. So we're really struggling in many parts of the world, including here in Nigeria. This year, we asked for $1.3 billion to support the operation here in the Northeast, and we got about 40% of that 520 million. So that gives you a sense of how challenging it is. Some of our key donors, like the United States, have clearly said that for next year they will give less, up to 40% less. So the funding environment is becoming challenging, and as a result, the main reason I was here this time was to chair our humanitarian country team meeting monthly to finalize our plans for next year. And we are having to become even more focused in terms of our operation. Just simply, we don't have the resources.
A report by the International Crisis Group is warning that the Kenyan-led multinational mission aimed to support the Haitian National Police in its fight against gangs will face multiple challenges: corruption, links between the police, politicians and gangs, overcrowded prisons, outnumbered police officers, and difficulties of protecting civilians in urban warfare are some of the challenges listed in the report. Less than 10,000 officers are estimated to be on duty at any time in a country of more than 11 million people. According to the UN, ideally, there should be some 25,000 active officers. The UN-backed multinational force is now yet to deploy as it waits a court ruling in Kenya. Burundi, Chad, Senegal, Jamaica, and Belize also have pledged troops for the multinational mission. A former interior minister of the Gambia is on trial in Switzerland after being accused of crimes against humanity. Usman Sonko faces a lengthy list of charges, including participating in or ordering the killing, torture, and rape of political opponents. However, Mr. Sonko has denied all the charges. He fled to Switzerland in 2016, shortly before the repressive regime of Gambian President Yahya Jammeh lost power, but was arrested after non-governmental organizations presented Swiss authorities with evidence of his involvement in human rights violations. 9 of his alleged victims are expected to testify in court. He is the highest-ranking government official ever to be prosecuted in this way in Europe. Well, Switzerland is trying the case under the principle of universal jurisdiction, and this allows countries to prosecute people on their territory even though the alleged crimes were committed elsewhere. Now, the South African presidency has dismissed social media reports claiming President Cyril Ramaphosa had taken ill and was admitted to a military hospital in the capital, Pretoria. This is after Mr. Ramaphosa failed to attend a meeting organized by the ruling African National Congress, ANC, on Sunday in Mpumalanga province. The ANC announced that Mr. Ramaphosa had been excused from the meeting due to an unexplained emergency, but the announcement sparked rumors and speculations about the president's health. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says the president is fine and he was never hospitalized, adding that Mr. Ramaphosa decided to spend the rest of the day at his residence. Well, back here in Nigeria, some part of the third mainland bridge, one of the busiest bridges in the country, will close from midnight. The Federal Controller of Works, Lagos, Mrs. Olukorode Kesha, was Channels Television's guest this morning on our Morning Brief program, where she reveals that the temporary closure of the bridge will help in carrying out comprehensive repairs on the bridge. Mrs. Kesha explains that repairs will take about 6 months and a strategic traffic management approach to facilitate smoother vehicular movement from 12 noon to 12 a.m. with a subsequent reversal in traffic flow from 12 a.m. to 12 noon between the island and the mainland in Lagos.
Initially, we were to have routine maintenance on Third Mainland Bridge before the advent of this new administration. And they looked at it that what this bridge deserves now is more than a routine maintenance. It's a comprehensive maintenance, comprehensive repairs, both on the upper elements and then the under elements. And that's what they did. So it was awarded, and then we started promptly. The forums have been dealt with. We said it would take 6 weeks. We didn't take more than that. We trashed that one out. Now, we now want to do the main bridge deck that goes to island, and then the one that comes from island. And because we do not want to multiply the inconvenience that is going to cost the motoring public, we have decided to face it. That was why we tackled the ramp first. We did all the ramps first, while we allow motorists to use the main deck. The contractor has the capacity to do the all at the same time, but we said no. The inconvenience will be unimaginable. So let's split it, let's face it, to reduce the inconvenience. It will take about 3 months, it will have been done. 3 months, because they have capacity. They will just bring multiple gangs. As one gang is here, one gang is there, but we said no. We can't afford to do that. We don't have many of such roads in Lagos. The population is growing by the minute, so and infrastructure is not matching up with the pace of growth. So we said, okay, let's do that. And that was why during the Yuletide period, we had to leave the bridge, because we're sensitive to what is happening around us. So we left, then we said, okay, let's come back now. Business is a bit low now. Things are just gearing up towards taking off. So we said, let's start now. So now we want to start with the bound going to the island from Iyano. And it's going to take us about 6-7 weeks.
Still to come on the program. 15 trapped miners in Zimbabwe pulled out alive in Harare. More details after the break. Please join us again. Welcome back to the program. We continue in Kenya, where the government is facing a backlash over the visa-free entry policy introduced for all foreigners this month. President William Ruto announced the policy last month to advocate for visa-free travel within the African continent. But Kenyan authorities have had to clarify that while the country grants visa-free entry, visitors need to apply for electronic travel authorization, ETA, by submitting documentation and paying a processing fee. The requirement also applies to countries whose citizens previously had unrestricted access to Kenya. Well, authorities said by Sunday, Kenya had received more than 9,000 visa applications through their digital platform. Well, some foreigners are now criticizing the government, saying that the new policy has created confusion and made travel to Kenya tougher and costlier. Well, joining us now to help us understand more is Cyrus Ombati, a Kenyan journalist in Nairobi. Hello, Cyrus. Thank you for your time.
Hello, how are you? You're fine, Kenya, you're fine.
Well, there appears to be some sort of confusion on this visa-free policy. Help us understand, as foreigners, what does it entail getting into the country?
Well, as you said clearly, there's a lot of confusion about the whole program, because initially the president said it would be free, the kind of visa-free kind, so everyone thought that you can jump into a plane and come to Kenya. But now it gets emerged that exactly it didn't mean that, because everyone who's coming to Kenya has to pay $30 to be able to come to Kenya. So it includes all the 51 countries which were initially exempt, and it also includes children who are initially exempt. So that's what has made everyone now kind of get confused, including the foreigners who are coming to the country, or those who are trying to transit, or rather, if you come, for example, to Kenya and you're trying to go to Tanzania on transit, you're also told to pay for that. So that's why it's causing a lot of confusion and there is anger among the travelers, and especially foreigners.
And is this just for Africans or, global citizens as well?
Yeah, it's affecting Africans apart from the ones of East African community, that's the Kenya, apart from the Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, and Somalia. All other African countries have to go through the whole process of applying and paying the money that's now to be. So it does not affect East African region only, countries only, but the other African countries have to pay. Those who are coming to Kenya have to pay for that fee.
Now, just like we've mentioned, the foreigners are saying this has made travel to Kenya tougher and costlier. Comparing and contrasting now to the former policies, how have things changed?
Well, as I said earlier on, there are 51 countries which were exempt from paying all the visa fee that now they're being introduced. Now they scrap that and say anyone who's coming to Kenya, including especially Americans, Britons, most European countries, some African countries which were initially exempt, now you have to pay $30 to be able to come to Kenya. Initially, children were not required to pay for the visa fee, but now all kinds of children have to pay for that. So I mean, they are trying to say that they're targeting the high number of visitors who are coming to Kenya to collect more, but then now, you see, when I say it's more expensive for them to travel and it's cumbersome in one way or the other.
Well, in all of this, what is the government now, trying or hoping rather to achieve with this policy?
Well, they are trying to say that they are transiting to a platform which is more secure because they are collecting more data on the travel as well. People are coming to Kenya. They are targeting more visitors who are coming to Kenya so that they can also make more money. So that's the argument they are making, that it's about security and more money to kind of enrich Kenya because Kenya is seeing so many visitors, so they have to make money out of it. And initially they are saying that people are coming to Kenya without giving their prior information for security checks. So they are trying to say that it's a way of ensuring the country gets more secure visitors and unlike the past when they were just coming in as they wish.
Thank you so much, Cyrus Ombati, a Kenyan journalist in Nairobi.
Thank you so much for having the program.
Well, it's a sigh of relief for families of 15 miners in Zimbabwe after officials say they have been rescued. They've been trapped in a gold mine for 4 days. Mines Minister Soda Zemu said the workers are healthy and conscious. Families of the trapped workers had been camping at the mine site in the mining village of Fenhalagato, 270 kilometers east of the capital Harare, waiting for the rescue. Well, the area is home to many undocumented workers who scrap a living amid economic hardship. The Red Wing gold mine, owned by Metallion Corporation, caved after the shaft collapsed on Thursday. Officials said an earth tremor might have caused the collapse. Back here in Nigeria, in Lagos State, the government has asked residents to see the waterways as a viable option and reduce the traffic congestion on the road, especially now that the third Mainland Bridge will be closed for repairs. The managing director of Lagos State Ferry Services made this comment when he spoke to Channels Television at the 5 Cowries Terminal, Falomo, Ikoyi. Lag Ferry organized the boat cruise for waterways passengers and to also attract more people on the route.
Water transportation is one of the fastest means of commuting, and some residents of Lagos, particularly those living on the island and the Ikorodu area of the state, have made it a regular option to ply the waterways just to get to their destinations as fast as possible. The Lagos State Ferry Services has brought together some waterways passengers as well as those who are yet to embrace water transportation as an alternative to go on a fun boat ride to begin the year.
It's an opportunity for young people and everybody to come together and jolly to start a good new year. I want to encourage all Lagosians to please try and start exploring other means of transportation, which includes the waterways. The same way we are using the new train now, I want to encourage Lagosians to please continue to use this waterway.
This is also seen as a form of tourism with an assurance of safety on the waterway.
Lagos tourism is going higher. This is to show you that Lag Ferry, in conjunction with Lagos State government, can go to any length to get you entertained.
A resident from Ikorodu, who's a regular passenger, appeals to governments to address the issue of water hyacinth, which blocks the path of boats and other vessels when in season.
The government will look for a permanent solution so that they can solve the water asset matters on the Ikorodu waterways. I expect more from the government, and I expect more boats, more safety boats, and more regulations.
The daily traffic situation on Lagos roads is as a result of the high volume of vehicles. Unfortunately, the ever-busy Third Mainland Bridge will be closed for repairs for about 6 weeks, and residents are advised to use the waterways to reduce the man-hours spent on the road.
Traffic management and transportation takes the first pillar and is very, very deliberate. This is because when you solve the mobility issues around the movement of Lagosians and the business of Lagos, you are already achieving about 50 or 60% of the solutions to the Lagosians problem. So all the 24 routes we are running across Lagos State waterway, we have all our passengers covered with insurance. That's another way of giving the confidence to the passenger that whatever happens, I am covered.
The Lagos State government is encouraging more residents to see the waterways as a safe mode of transportation and use their safety jackets before boarding any boat.
Nigeria and Saudi Arabia have signed a memorandum of understanding regarding this year's Hajj, the annual pilgrimage performed by devout Muslims in obedience to the Prophet Muhammad. The signing ceremony held in Jeddah between the Saudi Ministry of Hajj and Umrah and the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON, was attended by key representatives, including the Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Toga, and Malam Jalal Arabi, the acting chairman CEO of NACON. The host country's contingent was led by the Saudi Arabian Minister of Hajj and Umrah, Dr. Tawfiq Al-Rabai. Well, a statement released by NACON before the MOU signing says the two ministers held a brief discussion where Nigeria requested for a lasting solution to the shortage of tents in Mina and pressed for more favorable terms for Nigerian carriers during Hajj airlifts. In response, the Saudi minister, Dr. Rabaya, acknowledged the challenge of space in Mina and assured that efforts are being made to maximize the use of the available 2 million square meters for the over 2 million pilgrims performing Hajj annually. And Coptic Christians in Egypt have celebrated their Christmas Day on Sunday, January 7th. Egypt's newly re-elected president attended on Saturday the Christmas Eve Mass at the Cathedral of Nativity of Christ, east of Cairo. Christmas service was led by the Patriarch of St. Mark Episcopate. It was feast day for the country's largest religious minority, the Coptic Orthodox Christians. Although the celebration is overshadowed by the war raging in Gaza on Egypt's eastern borders, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi says Egypt will overcome the major existing crisis in the country. This year's festivities also comes amidst a harsh economic crisis. Orthodox Christians are the overwhelming majority of Egypt's Christians, who account for about 10% of the 105 million population. And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.